Vicky Linane and welcome to Embrace Therapy podcast. I am a practicing art therapist based in Ireland. In each episode, I will interview guests from various fields of therapy and well-being with the aim to encourage healing through embracing therapy.
On the podcast this week is Sarah Keating. She is an accredited music therapist, a neurologic music therapist, a clinical supervisor and founder of Keating Music Therapy. Sarah has gained experience in a wide variety of settings, including mental health with people of all ages. Sarah currently provides music therapy and supervision services online and in County Clare, County Tipperary and County Limerick regions. I really enjoyed having a chat with Sarah and I hope you enjoy listening.
You're in the West, you're in Clare, is that right?
Yeah, I'm based in Killaloe, so I'm at the very edge of Clare. Yeah, exactly. But I'm from Tipperary. I'm from Clare, South Tip originally. So I moved up here I had done my undergraduate in UL as well, so I had been in Limerick for that. And then I came back to Limerick to do the masters in music therapy, and so then I kind of just stuck around. I found a Limerick man and have been stuck around in the area.
Gorgeous. And what an area to be stuck in. It's so nice around there.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. Especially since last March, I've been realizing how lucky I am really to be stuck in all the places to be stuck in. It's pretty nice to be by the water in Killaloe. So, and the weather getting better again. Yeah. Did you get up to much over the weekend yourself? Were you able to enjoy some of the good weather?
Yeah, I was. Like, I've actually had a kind of a niggly shoulder and a sore back, but I've been resting up, and it's nice to be able to rest out in the garden in the sunshine rather than, inside in the cold or whatever. I love the change in the seasons. I just love that. I suppose with the change in the seasons and the evenings getting brighter, our moods can kind of feel lifted with that as well. And I've definitely noticed, like,
absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely with the clients and myself, and I know that seasonal affective disorders are like a real thing, but I think most of us feel that shift and lift in the mood and everything. So
yeah, definitely. And I even notice it myself in my own work too. You notice that people are just that little bit brighter, at the start of sessions. They're a little bit more inclined to pick the songs that are a bit more upbeat, that are reminding them of summertime, reminding them of barbecues, even songwriting things that I'm doing. They also those kind of family experiences of having a drink and having a barbecue and, being out, going cycling, going hiking. Like, that's kind of what the conversations are revolving around, and it's lovely. And the music is revolving around that too. So it can be a lovely time of year for us music therapists as well, because we get to experience all those lovely bright parts of it, of the music. And obviously, it's completely fine to experience the parts that aren't so bright and aren't so lovely, and that's what we're here for too. But it can be a pleasant experience to witness that shift in people's perceptions of what's going on around them and what they're thinking about.
And with May, I always associate May with Bealtaine. It's just something that is just like embedded in my thoughts of like May. I think of like May Day and the May altar in school, and then I'm thinking about when I was working in a nursing home and how important that day was to all the people there, and then Bealtaine and just the buzz in the nursing home with Bealtaine. I don't know, there was something so special about that it's just, I always think of May and associate it with that. And I think it's like that upbeat kind of feeling that you kind of just said as well. It's like that shift. So it's like a celebration or something in the change of the season. So your client group, would it be like all ages, or like who do you especially work with?
I actually do quite a lot of work with adults living with varying presentations or levels of physical or intellectual disabilities, and I also work with children who are either living with developmental issues, have experienced maybe a brain injury, acquired brain injury or stroke, and are living with the symptoms that have come after those incidents or injuries. But I also do quite a lot of work in older adult mental health. So I work in a nursing home, and I have in the past worked in specific, I worked within an older adult mental health kind of day centre unit, and I also worked in a specific older adult unit for people living with dementia, various forms of dementia. So I've had a lot of experience in that area too, and I actually find that work really rewarding. I find all of the work really rewarding, to be honest. But there's something about using music with older adults that can be, I'm not sure what the word is for it. Is it cathartic, or is it just a bit of a release, or something quite calming and relaxing about it?
Yeah, definitely. I can completely agree. Like, yeah, it's just so home. I don't know what it is as well. It's a really hard one to kind of nail with just a word, but it's just so comforting. Like, and especially using music. Like, I can't imagine working with that particular client group with like older people, especially in nursing homes. I can't imagine working with them without the music. Like, I just think it comes, I think it just comes with it, you know? So like even that reminiscing kind of side of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I was going to say as well is that there is besides the therapeutic benefits of the music therapy and the actual kind of clinical side of what I'm doing and what I'm bringing, I do at the moment, I'm doing a number of different groups and slowly getting back into some of the one-to-one individual sessions we had, because of COVID, stopped those because obviously we were trying to reduce only in there once a week in that particular nursing home. We were trying to reduce my footfall especially within people's rooms, just to keep things as safe as possible. But thankfully now we're kind of getting back to that again, which is really great. It's because the vaccination has come into that nursing home, so we're all vaccinated, and things are looking a little bit brighter, so fingers crossed it continues that way. But so we're going back to some of that as well, and we were just talking, we were doing a bit of a review about the service, and one of the things the director of care said to me was, we don't want to get rid of any of the groups in order to compensate having some individuals as well, because not only obviously is the group beneficial, but just one group is in the upstairs section and one group is in the downstairs section. And what was said was, we just like having the music in the upstairs, hearing it. So it just made me realize that actually it's not just the people in the group. People can hear the music as they pass down the hallway, or maybe from their rooms when we're singing louder songs, they can hear the waft of sound and instruments being played, and that in itself actually is something that they don't want to let go of. So that's something that's secondary to whatever is happening in the room and the therapeutic goals and aims that are being brought specifically for the group or in the individuals in the group. So it's just amazing to remind yourself actually that there is other things that can be happening, or people outside of that circle can be benefiting. I suppose actually, as I say that, it's important to note too that for some people, music can be a noise pollution. I'm not trying to bring down, but I think it's really important to just make that, even just to say it, because obviously, music can be lovely and it can be fantastic, and a lot of people really enjoy it. But it can be noise pollution for some people. It can be songs maybe that they don't like, or they can be in a position where they just want some silence or they want some peace. And I think that's a really important balance to be aware of. But it was just lovely to hear that from the director of care, just to hear, no, we just love hearing the music. It brings life, I think is what she had said, into the whole ward, which was really nice to just be aware of that part of it too.
Yeah, what lovely feedback. And it's so true. Brings life. Yeah, that is
absolutely. And
so nice.
I suppose thinking a little bit about the fact that you've been focusing a little bit on Bealtaine and how important that is in your world, and how actually that's kind of coming into spring and coming into the summer and the new life that comes with that. I guess it's kind of just funny how there seems to be that link there. Just today as we're talking came to my mind.
Yeah, they're such lovely things, and they do overlap, and we do just feel it, and I think that's why Bealtaine came about as well, as that just celebration of the changes in the season and everything.
I suppose, like, if you were to go through a typical session, because, you mentioned there's some of the goal setting that you might apply to a particular group. But if we were to just concentrate on that particular client group for just a moment. So, I have experience in the area, and I have an idea, but for me, it was always, art facilitation or reminiscing sessions, which would be, not art, but it's not therapy, but it would be therapeutic. But you wouldn't really have those goal settings or anything like that. So I'd love to know the difference, I suppose, in that, and what it is that you exactly do with, let's say, people who are living in a nursing home, for example, and like you said, thinking about that noise pollution, maybe with certain clients they might be finding it quite triggering, and so I suppose you have such an awareness that maybe it'd be lovely to kind of maybe outline exactly what it is that you do.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Mm.
So I suppose there's lots of different things that music therapists can do within nursing homes or day centers when working with older adults, and it would all depend on who you're working with and what those goals are. But I suppose to kind of talk you through, as you were asking, what I'm doing specifically with currently with the older adult groups I'm working with. So to give you a bit of an idea, the adults I'm working with now are all living within a nursing home, and there is a mixture of different presentations and different abilities within the groups. Some people would be arriving at the group very cognitively aware, very well able to use the music for expressing themselves, and that reminiscence that you were talking about. We might do a lot of song choice, and they might be telling me about songs I haven't heard of before. I'll go and learn them and bring them to the group then, and we'll sing them together, and it kind of becomes a key into a conversation about other important aspects of their life, or a key into that remembering different things that were important for them, and then just sharing it not only with me but with the other people within the group, the other residents of the nursing home that they are now spending their time with, and they're getting to know, and they're building those important relationships within the residential setting. And then you'd have other people in the group who might be coming, we'll say, kind of the opposite end, who might be more withdrawn within themselves. They might not find verbal communication very easy. That might be quite difficult for them to find the words. Some might be living with dementia or other neurodegenerative diseases. Or some could be just part of the natural aging process and not necessarily have any particular diagnosis. And for those people, we would still be engaging in song singing. I would be engaging in instrumental play as well, wherever possible. But for that, the goal there would be more about using the music as a non-verbal, meaningful form of interaction with another person. I'd be very much focused on, which I think would be kind of the standard when working with older adults, on person-centered care. So really meeting people where they are, which is why we can have two completely different presentations in the one group, because actually not only am I then meeting them where they're at, but they meet each other where they are too, and you end up having these lovely interactions between the residents within the group at the time as well, and allowing some people to be supported by other people, other peers of their own, but also allowing those other members in the group who are more cognitively aware and able to kind of express themselves and to be verbal and cognizant, to be supportive of others around them, and to kind of have that autonomy and have that what's the word I'm looking for, that element of independence, and to show that they are able to care for others as well, and to give that support when needed, and that itself can be very therapeutic. So the groups really, they'd be some of the kind of intricate kind of goals that would be on my mind, I'd be holding in mind and trying to provide that within the group. In terms of what we would actually be doing, if you were sitting on the outside and looking in, it would, a lot of the time it becomes therapeutic singing and discussion of music with some relaxation I'll introduce a little bit of movement into it at times, and again, all depending on how everybody is. If the energies are a little bit higher and people are a bit brighter and feeling like they can, it would be a lot of sitting, maybe dancing in their seats, gross motor skills from a seated position, leg movements to the rhythm of familiar and preferred tunes, and also just giving a space for each person to request a song or suggest a particular song. We would sing that together as a group and then go back to the person who requested it and give them space to talk about maybe why that song is important for them today. Sometimes it's as simple as I like the song, and sometimes it can be as deep and meaningful as it reminds me of my loved one who passed away many years ago, and they have all of these stories about it. And other times it's purely, as I was talking about, that nonverbal meaningful interactions. So sometimes choosing a song or just hearing a song that is familiar can bring someone from that state of being quite withdrawn, maybe being slumped in their seating position, maybe even with their eyes closed, to opening their eyes, sitting up a little bit straighter, becoming aware of the fact that something is happening for them in particular, and that they're being interacted with, and that they are interacting with others, and then coming from that, with some people, maybe not with everybody, sometimes there's some verbal interaction can come from that as well, which is a very big difference to the presentation at the beginning of a session. So there could be a lot happening. I know that was a very long-winded answer, but I suppose there's a lot happening in the groups, and it depends on who's there and what goes on.
So stimulating, isn't it? Music, like, it stimulates all parts of us, like you said, even that storytelling part, that memory, is being stimulated. And then the body, like, even something so small for someone who's had, like, strokes, and to see their body actually responding to music can be just like, whoa, that's amazing. Like, and writing your notes and everything, I say, you specify all those kind of movements in that person's chart. I'm sure that's part of, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. At the end of my day in the nursing home, I would spend time writing into their clinical notes. And for someone who has presented quite differently in response to the music, I'll be sure to make note of that, down to eye movements, down to increased eye contact, or even down to facial expression. Someone who might have moved from a flat affect to smiling and to appropriately interacting to what's going on around them. Actually, just as we're talking about this, there's one particular person I was working with coming to mind, and I know you know this, but I suppose to note for the podcast, as it is a therapeutic intervention, it's confidential, and I'm not going to disclose anything that would give any identifying information away or anything like that. So I always find it important to just note that when I'm talking about these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I won't give a name or anything, but this particular woman I was working with, I have been working with now for quite a while, and she has continuously progressed into a more withdrawn state. And so when I meet her at the start of a session, she could be quite withdrawn. Again, like I was talking about, the body posture being quite slumped in the chair, head kind of down, eyes closed. But when the music begins to play, you can see first what will happen will be her foot will start tapping. And then, I'll bring her name into maybe familiar tunes and start to increase her awareness of the fact that we are interacting together and that she's directly influencing the music. And that's when the head might come up and the eyes might open, and then the mouth might start moving along with the words, because the familiar words are still there. It's almost like muscle memory in a sense. It's that how music affects the different parts of the brain. And therefore music, it can be one of those last things actually to go in your end of life care. But this particular lady then begins to talk about and tell me a lot about, actually she used to be a dancer, and all the different things that she used to do with dancing, which I now completely understand why the foot tapping is the first thing to happen. And every time we play together, the foot taps, and sometimes it's very big, sometimes it's really small. She's almost slightly pointing her foot. Really, you can see that she has dance in her body, and in her memory, and it's so beautiful to be able to see it coming out. And I suppose it's that expression of her sense of self as well, her identity, and her experiences, kind of being able to express it, even if it's in a smaller version of that. It's just lovely to be able to do it.
Like, gosh, like what a reward to be there in that moment and to have that effect, promote that in her, like her true self, to be able to shine for how long. It's just incredible, because it is very sad to go into some places and you see so many people, like you said, like even the body just being so withdrawn, and some places don't embrace music therapy or art therapy, and they don't have the kind of activities even to incorporate these kind of changes in people. So it's really sad, but it's so important. It's hugely important with older adults. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I was looking actually at some of the research, just kind of refreshing my mind before we had our conversation this morning, of the different things out there. And the World Health Organization actually have statistics at the moment to say that I suppose with ongoing developments in science and in health and medications, there are many more older adults now as there was many years ago. And I think the survey, I think, said in 2019 there was something like about 1 billion people who are 60 years of age and older, and they're predicting that by 2050 that will be 2 billion people. So that's a huge amount of our population. I think it becomes 1 in 5 people will be of the age of 60 or older, and therefore it's so important then, isn't it, to be looking at all the different ways that we can stimulate and benefit and enhance the quality of life and well-being as we age. And as well, I mean, the research also talks about how dementia and neurodegenerative diseases, they're not a normal part of aging. They can happen, and they tend to happen more so with older adults, but it isn't a normal part of aging. There is also healthy aging without any of these issues, but there will be a slowing down naturally of a lot of the physiological abilities or the body's ability. But research shows that engaging in leisurely activities that are we find enjoying, or we get enjoyment out of, or fitness activities, or even just social interaction engagement, can increase what they're calling cognitive reserve, and creating these new pathways. So actually what's been witnessed is the fact that someone who may have different pathologies in the brain, who may have actually damage in the brain that can end up resulting in dementia, actually don't, then the onset of the symptoms don't come on. They're delayed because of the fact that that person may be engaged a lot in different leisurely activities or fitness or social interaction, building that cognitive reserve, and therefore the onset of these symptoms didn't happen as early as they would have. So that's where creative arts therapies can come in, art therapy, music therapy, dance movement therapy, as well as every other day-to-day activities that people can engage in. But I suppose that's where we're coming from, is the creative arts therapy side of things. And that's where we can come in. I'm not saying that we are going to cure dementia. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's just really important to be aware of the fact that there is a possibility of building cognitive reserve, and therefore delaying the onset of these symptoms. Because you're right, it is sad, it's very difficult, it's not an easy thing to go through. It's also not an easy thing to witness for family members or caregivers, or even the people who work in nursing homes who witness it every day. It's not easy. So if we can do anything to delay that, we should be doing it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And like, even just like you said, those kind of leisurely activities that people might be doing themselves, like whether it's going to bingo or going to your local club and playing cards, it's that social interaction, and it's giving you some independence and feeling empowered, even, because you might win bingo, you might win cards, and it's lovely, to have that challenge and that cognitive ability just to be brushed up on every week, or maybe even 4 times a week. It depends, some people, and I feel for them as well, because obviously over COVID all those kind of places have been closed, so there might be that onset of symptoms now because of that. So there might be, a bit of that going on. But like you said, it's even more now, like, than ever before. Let's just embrace, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's been a lot of people who have been able to do a lot of really great remote work over the period of isolation, increased isolation of COVID, especially, as you say, in centres, day centres, nursing homes, where a lot of things had to shut down, had to shut their doors. A lot of things couldn't come in. I mean, I had to stop going into the nursing home for a number of months. Luckily I was able to get back in, and I was part of the staff in terms of being tested every week, so there was a lot of poking and prodding going on, but it was for the greater good. So it's okay. So absolutely, yeah, there is an increase, unfortunately, in isolation, and you imagine there may be an increase of onset of different symptoms because of that. But hopefully, as you say, it being even more important, hopefully it'll be even further embraced, different creative arts therapies in centres and nursing homes.
You mentioned there as well the World Health Organization, and I remember once before, I don't know where I read it, or even if it was on like YouTube, I saw a video or something, but I know that in Japan they have this program which is so unique, and I'd love to see it being rolled out here, but it probably takes a lot of paperwork to get it over the line, I'd say. But they match kindergarten age children and old age pensioners. So, over in Japan, I think it's 70 when the retirement age comes in. And they have centers, and they just meet, and they have this like linked friendship. But there's so much that they can give to one another, reintroducing play into their everyday, and then the storytelling aspect, and getting that feedback, and the questions that obviously kindergarten aged like kids ask, like toddlers, like, gosh, they're so inquisitive. And it's just that, like, meeting, and being met and being heard, and they can really learn so much from one another in that interaction.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, I haven't heard of the specific program in Japan you're talking about, but I've definitely seen, I feel like it might have happened over, I don't know where, but in the Western world, because I feel like I've seen it, like maybe there was a documentary, or was there a show or something. I feel like I've seen those bits of those interactions, and it's so beautiful. It's even just to be on the outside observing it, it's so lovely, and it can be funny, it can be great. But yeah, absolutely, the amount of information they can give each other, the amount of attention, and that interaction, and that sense of I suppose being needed, and being an important figure in another person's life, no matter what that might mean for them. I think, yeah, that's such a wonderful idea. God, it'd be great if we could do it more here.
And it's that, like, you said there that, like, you're able to keep coming into the nursing homes, and be that relationship for them, be the person that can be consistent in their life, not just one that cares for them in that way, but it's an actual friendship, because you get to play together, play the music together, and it's totally different than the relationship they would have maybe with the carer or a nurse. It's just that little bit extra, as in you get that time to really get to sit with them. Carers and nurses are just so busy, they don't get that. I'm sure they love the one-to-one contact especially, but it's so hard. But you being that one, it's so important, the relationship, even that part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually there's, just as you're talking about that those different relationships, so my relationship, my therapeutic relationship with them, but and also I guess the carers relationship, and then family members relationship. So I mean, this would have been pre-COVID, when family members were coming in more often, but I was in, this was a work I was doing within a unit in a hospital that was specifically a long-term stay unit that was specifically for adults living with different forms of dementia, whether that was Alzheimer's disease or Lewy body disease, or the many other forms of dementia out there. And there were often, I was doing this open kind of music therapy group because that's what, talking about that person-centered care, that's what was suiting the people I was working with, because there was a lot of symptoms at that time of wandering. So, the kind of just not being able to sit. For some people it's more than 30 seconds, and needing to get up and move in and out of the room. And so a closed music therapy group would have been counterproductive, really. It would have been causing more stress and anxiety for people to kind of try and make people stay sitting when that's not what they needed. So I was doing an open group, and the open group ended up having not just members or residents living in the unit coming and joining, but their family members, if they happened to be visiting at that time, or different carers or nurses who happen to maybe have 5 minutes of a break and just wander in and just watch the music and watch the interactions. And I don't think I'll ever forget this. And I've talked about it on my Instagram before, because it's something that was sat with me for such a long, will sit with me forever, I think. It was so powerful at the time. There was one particular woman who was really doing quite a lot with wandering, was at the later stages of dementia. And her husband, he perhaps he visited every day. I was only there once a week, but he was always there when I was there. So whether he was there on that day every week or whether he was there every day, I'm not sure, but he was always with her. And he was always, often I would see him sitting on his own, or maybe following a little bit behind her, because he was aware of the fact that she needed the wandering, she needed the space. And he was wanting to be with her, but obviously not wanting to cause her any anxiety or stress. And so he often would be on his own, kind of waiting for her to be able to sit with him for a few minutes. And that in itself is difficult, not only for her, but for him as well, who's witnessing it. And he was in the group. She happened to come in and sit down for a couple of seconds, and as she was sitting, I began singing a song. It was "You Are My Sunshine," and it obviously connected with her on some level, or maybe I don't know the backstory of it. I don't know if it was a song that was their song together, or if it was just something that she knew really well. But she stayed, and we sang the song and repeated the chorus, the whole group together, a number of times. So we ended up singing the song for probably 2 to 3 minutes. And she sat for that 2 to 3 minutes, and he had his arm around her, and they sat together, embraced, listening to the song, singing. He shed tears. It was obviously very emotional for him that he had that moment of connection. So just as you're talking about the different relationships that can be built through, I suppose in this case, music therapy, it's not only really just the relationships that happen between myself and the members. It's between the members of the group. It's between their family members. It's between the different carers around. I've other stories of carers coming in dancing, with getting up and dancing with people who love to dance or love to move while I'm playing music. And it's facilitating a lot of different types of relationships and friendships and connections. And it's such a privilege to be able to be part of that, to be able to witness it. It really is.
The magic of it all, it really is. And those connections, especially with dementia, it's there's few and far between a lot of the time. So being able to facilitate one of them is just incredible, and to witness it, of course that's going to stay with you forever. Absolutely.
And that's actually such a good point that you say there about even if you facilitate just one moment like that, because actually I do remember that group feeling really chaotic at the time, because it was an open group. People were coming in and out, and staff were coming in and out. People were still talking, obviously, because they weren't maybe fully aware that it's a therapeutic space, so they were coming in and chatting, and it was a room that had 2 different adjoining doors for different units, so it was also being used as a pathway and a hallway. So I remember thinking, like, at the time, oh my God, this is such a hectic session. You know, what am I doing? How can I hold all of this? And then it was really only in the reflection of the session afterwards that all of these little moments I started to remember and pull out, and realized actually in the chaos of the space and of everything going on, there were some really powerful moments that happened. It's important to note that, important to realize that it may only be small moments in a big mass of other things happening. But yeah, that's what we're there to hopefully facilitate.
Yeah, like they always are so busy. Like any age-related unit I've been in are very, very busy. You know, and it's so true. Like you just described a place that was so similar. Like I've worked in, I think 3 different places where it would be kind of age-related, I suppose, illnesses. Mostly mental health, but yeah, so you know, I suppose that idea that there'd be like a pathway or a, you know, yeah, a usual place where people would be coming by with, you know, medications, you know, and having to use that. Yeah, absolutely, that's just brought back so many visuals in my head. um but I think you're so right about the open group, you know. It's the same with me with the open art studio. I think it is the only way, a lot of the time with groups, especially in those kind of busier groups. Yeah, having the opportunity to come in and go, and there not to be any need to stay, you know, that they don't feel like they have to. Yeah, I think that's so important. Yeah, but it's so hard at the same time to hold that container. So it's yeah, it's worth saying. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Definitely. And I think, again, sorry, going back to the person-centered care side of things, it's meeting people where they're at. So if that's what is going to be beneficial, that's what we'll do our best as therapists to facilitate. Having said that, I'm constantly reviewing people's response to and engagement with the music, what's working for them, what isn't, and as time goes on, and as I mentioned with that one lady I told the story who was a dancer, and I've talked about how I can see that she's progressing into being more withdrawn into herself. She used to be part of a group, but actually after a discussion with the care team, it became evident that really what she needed was that one-to-one time, so that she could actually get a bit more of a private space where there wasn't so much going on, and we were able to maybe connect on a more direct level, and really allow whatever it was she needed, whether that was very slow paced music, whether it was silence for a while, whether so it's being aware. I suppose that's how we contain it, isn't it? It's being aware of what's going on while containing the group, being aware of the individual things that are happening, being able to see that, okay, this is working really well for A, B, C, and D, but actually it might not be working so well for F right now, so let's see what we can do to make that better for them. Yeah, and it's funny as I say that, when you're walking by an art therapy group or a music therapy group or another type of creative arts therapy group, and this is probably something we as creative arts therapists are always kind of fighting with or struggling against, it can look like we're just having fun and just this and that, and but actually when we start our conversation here and the breaking down of all the different things we're thinking, it just shows the complexity actually of what we're doing and the importance of that therapeutic side of the work, and the fact that that training of being able to know when something is appropriate and when something is not appropriate, kind of like when I was saying, when something is beneficial music, relaxation, connection, or when it's noise pollution, and when it's maybe difficult or bringing up something that's a bit too much over sensory load or whatever it might be. Yeah, it's just reminding me of how complex it really is.
Yeah, oh, you're so right. Yeah, like I can remember, like for example, this one particular gentleman, he would have been in the wandering stage of dementia as well, and it was very important that he got to move about. When he didn't, he got quite aggressive, and I think that's the upsetting thing. It was just it was too hard to be restricted. So yeah, like that, like care team meetings, so important to review on an individual case. So yeah, absolutely, so important. And if you don't get that, and if you don't have the training, those things can kind of get, through the net, and then it's an unfortunate thing. So it's so valid. Something came into my mind then as well when we were talking about kind of groups and even that dancer, that beautiful moment. There's this group called the Forget Me Nots. They're a choir. Do you know about them?
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Oh, it's such a lovely idea, and they get together. It's near Hoth. I can't remember the name of the actual village, but anyway, but yeah, they kind of get together, and lots of different people from different communities make the journey every week. And I just think choirs, are so therapeutic as well. And that group singing, is so important. And then
Absolutely.
yeah, and that kind of purpose of kind of going to it and feeling part of a group is so important. And I think everyone in every age can really identify with that collective singing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely the benefits of being within a group, whether it's singing or other music creation. There is that bond that can be created, that kind of, I suppose, a little bit more special than just a conversational bond. There's something about creating something together that can be very powerful in bringing people together. And then with singing specifically, there's so much more to it, really, isn't there? There's the lung health, there's the respiratory abilities, I suppose, especially now with people who have had COVID and I need a little bit more care and rehabilitation with the lungs and respiratory and everything else that's going on. Singing has all those benefits as well. Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right, I hadn't thought about the Forget Me Not choir, but it's a fantastic idea, and I have heard of them. All right, they're brilliant.
Yeah, it's really nice. And like that, they would have therapeutic results, but they would have some of their own goals. But yeah, like it would be different, just to say that it is different, but they have their own kind of goal setting. And a lot of the time it's just that collective and checking in with each person, and them to check in with one another, like just friendship, like, and how important that is. And just to honor that space. And I think they have performances like quite regularly, which obviously is great, like that feeling of like having a performance. And I guess for me, when I think about the work that I did in different places, so whether it was in a general hospital, in an age-related unit, and having them wanting to show their work, so like, that presentation part is so important to so many people. And I'd love to know, does it happen to you in the space? Do you feel like people are like, oh, well, I have this song that I want to give as a gift and present and, showcase my talent? Does that happen in a music therapy session?
It's really interesting that you asked that, actually. It does and it doesn't. It totally depends. I suppose I'm very much always trying to bring home the point with people who come to music therapy that they don't have to be musicians, they don't have to sound beautiful, they don't have to be fantastic, because that can sometimes be a bit of a barrier. The voice is such an intimate thing, isn't it? It can be very vulnerable to sing, especially if you're not confident, or if you just yourself, you're not a singer. It can be a very vulnerable thing to do. So I suppose I'm forever trying to bring that point that it doesn't matter what we sound like. It's okay. It's more about the other benefits that come from it. But you're right. There are definitely times where people, I haven't necessarily done kind of performances with other kind of in front of other kind of staff members or in front of other members within nursing homes or different centers. But just as you're talking, one particular person has just jumped into my mind, because that element, that idea of giving a song to others. There's two things actually that happened really recently that fit into what you're saying. It's a little bit different in the sense that it still happened within the kind of confidential group of the session, but it was that idea of, this is my song and I want to sing it, or I want to give it to the other members in the group, and I want to perform it in a sense. There was a particular a particular woman who comes to the group regularly, who deals with chronic pain, and she uses the music as lowering her pain perception, and as a way of movement a little bit too, because actually it's quite hard for her to transition from being in bed to being in a chair and moving around, even in a wheelchair. Even it can be quite difficult, so it facilitates that, once a week, that time and that space. But also she really engages in song and in music and really expresses herself, and it opens up so much conversation for her. And in a very recent session a number of weeks ago, she came to the group and she said, I actually have the words written out for this song, can I go get them? And she went back to her room to get them and came back, and she sang the song for everyone on her own, and I kind of just hummed away in the background and really let it be her moment. I didn't kind of play along or sing along. It wasn't we all singing together, we all listened to her. And there was so much that came from that. And there was another gentleman who is new to the music therapy group, who presents with being quite shy, quite not withdrawn, very much cognitively quite aware and able to be part of the group, but just maybe that shyness is a big part of it, maybe a lack of confidence is a big part of it as well, and a little bit of confusion coming in and out, of kind of standing up and needing to move around and then sitting down again and not being 100% sure where to go or what to do. And when I was going around the group, which I often do, and I ask people, what is it that you would like to listen to today, or what song would you like for us to play, that's important for you in this moment right now. And when I came to that particular gentleman, he really didn't know. I gave him a couple of options, and nothing was kind of clicking with him, or else there was maybe a bit of shyness or uncertainty around choosing something. And then I just gave him a bit of space, gave him a bit of silence, and out of nowhere he just began singing. And I didn't know the song at the time. I've since learned it. It's actually Those Were the Days, My Friend. You know that song? Yeah. He sang the verse of it, and I didn't really get it until he got to the chorus. And actually it was so beautiful because others around knew it instantly, and they began to sing along, and they were happy and smiling. And then all of a sudden his presentation became this confident person who has brought something into the group, who has affected change in the people around him because of his voice and his song and what was important to him. So even though, no, I wouldn't necessarily be organizing performances of music that we're doing together, but within the space there are those moments where those solos come out, or even if it's just the song is chosen, we all sing it together, but chosen specifically by a person because that's their gift to the group, and maybe the gift to themselves in that case, of giving them that autonomy, that confidence, that understanding that, oh, I have a voice, and I've made this change happen in the group because of me and my sound, which is lovely.
Oh, it really is. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, those two beautiful stories. They're gorgeous. And so healing, even just to hear. Do you know? It's so true. Gorgeous. And you said it's like you were humming along in one part, and it got me thinking again of like how, you said the voice is really vulnerable, but even humming or whistling or, anything that you can do with the voice can be so transformative in that moment. And yeah, I can totally change. I remember witnessing it before, like in a group, and someone chose Zippity Doodah, that song, and it's so lovely, but there's a lovely whistle and hum in it as well. And it meant that everyone in the group could participate in that song because they had those boom, boom, boom kind of moments, or the whistling along. So yeah, it's magic, really, the music and how much variety there can be in a song. Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely.
I love that particular song. It brings me back. And everybody has got memories attached to songs. I think it's hard not to, even remember. Performance. Let's say a gig for me. I'd always have songs that I'd be like, oh, I remember going to see them, and
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually, just as you're saying that, research does show that the memories that we make from, or the songs that we listen to from the ages of about 15 to maybe mid-20s, like that stage in our life is so important because there's so much happening. We are transitioning from being kind of children to adults. We are going from being dependent to independent. A lot of those big milestones generally happen within that time frame of, you know, moving out, maybe finding somebody, maybe getting married, maybe not, maybe traveling, whatever it is that might happen for you. A lot of the milestones begin to happen then in that time. So research shows that the memories we make then are the strongest, really, and they stick with us. So the music we listen to at that time, when we listen to it years and years and years after the events, are the ones that are more likely going to bring back certain memories and certain feelings or certain associations. And whether, even if we don't see ourselves as particularly musical people, music is all around us all the time. It's on the radio when we're in the car, it's in shopping centers when we're walking around. It's, you know, it's very hard to not have music. It's in TV shows. I'm just thinking about theme tunes of songs. I mean, when as soon as you hear a theme tune of it, like the Friends theme tune for me is a big one, or I'm sure there'll be lots of theme tunes people listened to over lockdown that will bring down everything and bring back everything that they felt at these times, which, you know, maybe good or not, who knows. So that's what we do then when we're working with older adults, is bringing songs that are, you know, that were maybe popular or were out at the time where they were between the ages of 15 up to 20 something. And yeah, it brings back so much. You're so right. Yeah.
I'm going to go right back now, just because I wanted to kind of say something as well, like about the start of all of this journey for you. So just if we can, because I think it would be unfair not to kind of touch on that. So, you know, when you're in secondary school, you're doing your leaving cert. What did you want to do for yourself? Like, what did you envisage for yourself? Did you always know about music therapy, or how did it come about?
No, I definitely didn't always know about music therapy. I did always know I wanted to work with people. But I mean, look, to be totally honest, I definitely envy those people who are 17 years old and know what they want to do. And I think for a lot of people that just isn't the case. So, and I was certainly one of those people who didn't really know, but music was always a massive part of my life. I was always in the shows in secondary school growing up, and you know, I sang in competitions, and I suppose I was really into the performing side of things from a young age. And dance as well is something I really liked too. So I ended up doing an undergraduate degree in UL. It was the BA in voice and dance. So I kind of was looking at the performance side of things, studying the dance and music side of things, and then majored in singing and performance. In the second year, you majored in one or the other, and that's what I majored in. After that, then I took time out because it's you know, being a performer isn't the easiest job, a career to kind of go into. I did some traveling. I was actually teaching English in China for a while, which was a really great experience. It was something totally different, and but still working with people. So, you know, different, but also still having that experience of being with people and working with people. And then when I came back from China, that's when I applied for the music therapy. During the undergraduate, I was in UL, and that's when I started to know a bit more about music therapy. I was actually going to do my undergraduate final year project on something related to music therapy, but I realized that was a big feat, and actually I might not have done it justice at that age with the little knowledge I had. So I decided not to go down that route at the time, but the interest was there. And then after about 2 years of, you know, traveling and doing random different things, I actually even worked in a solicitor's office for a couple of months, something completely separate entirely. You know, I know, it's so funny. I then went and I did the master's in music therapy in UL, which is the 2-year full-time master's. And yeah, haven't looked back. I graduated in 2018 and I've been working since then. I was lucky to, my final placement became work for me, which is great. When I graduated, I went back and worked there, which is fantastic. I also went back, another one of my placements I had done while I was training was in the National Rehabilitation Hospital in Dunleary in Dublin with Rebecca O'Connor, who's fantastic music therapist. And when I graduated, I actually went back and worked there for a while as a graduate, which was fantastic to get that experience, you know, outside of training, to actually get the experience as a professional, which was brilliant. And I, at the same time as kind of doing all that, I set up Keating Music Therapy, which is the business that I operate under. And I've been operating under that name ever since, really. And it's only since lockdown that I decided to go on Instagram and actually make my business more online, more accessible, more known to people, I guess, which was such a great idea, because it was really through all of that that I connected with yourself and lots of other people. And I think actually, I'm obviously an accredited member of the Irish Association of Creative Arts Therapists since I graduated. But it was really only, to be honest, since lockdown that I really began to engage in all the brilliant things that iCat provides. And I wonder, is it just because, I suppose, first of all, there was a bit more time at the beginning, and second of all, everything became so much more accessible because everything was online. So I actually got connecting with, like I said, yourself and lots of other people through that, which has been fantastic and has been nothing but positive for my work. In terms of networking, but also just in terms of the support element. I think that's something I didn't realize until I graduated as a music therapist, and I'm so glad of it, is that creative arts therapists are really supportive of each other. I wondered, was there going to be an element of actually being very competitive, considering there's not a huge amount around, and there's going to be certain areas that people are going to want to work in, and actually that's really not the case. I have found that people are really supportive, which is really, I can't speak for everybody's experience, but my experience, I have found people have been really supportive, which is fantastic. And actually, as professionals, really, I found that we're just here to make sure that the profession as a whole gets that recognition that it needs, continues to grow, and that we can safely continue to provide therapy to the people who need it and can benefit from it, which is fantastic. So that's a kind of a snapshot of me.
No, that was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely here to everything that you said. Like I think COVID definitely has brought us closer in some way. Like Ireland's a small little island, but it's funny how isolating it can be when you're working for yourself, like, as well. But yeah, you're so right. I think the creative arts therapists are they just, I don't know what it is, they're just very warm and happy to share their wisdom. No one said no to coming on the podcast, as I said to you when we started. Yeah, it's so true. Like, everyone's very happy to just promote the work that we do, like you said. And I think it's so important.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, on that, do you mind if I kind of get a little plug in here, actually, while we're talking about promoting the work? So I'm Keating Music Therapy is kind of venturing into something a little bit new. So I'm actually going to be offering a music and well-being program for 6 weeks. So it's going to be an online 1 hour a week for adults who are just looking for a little bit of self-care, a little bit of time for themselves. And the medium in order to achieve that is going to be music in this case. So it's not strictly music therapy. It's not something to replace other therapy that someone who is might be receiving as well. But it's just that 1 hour a week to just let go a little bit, relax. Maybe it's someone who is like yourself, bringing little ones to school and having lots of things going on and just needing time for you. Or maybe it's someone in college who has just had a whole year of online studying and dealing with online placement and like figuring everything out, living at home, not getting to have the normal college life that most college students should have and look forward to having. Just to kind of let go and unwind. So it's music and well-being. All the details are on my Instagram, which is Keating Music Therapy. It's beginning May 11th, so that's Tuesday. So it's every Tuesday from 7 till 8 p.m. and you can book a place for the 6 sessions by emailing me, which is keatingmusictherapy@gmail.com.
Oh, Dawn, that's so beautiful. Oh, it's so needed. It really is. Absolutely, that's gorgeous. I can think of anyone and everyone that could get benefit from that kind of space. And an hour is just so easy to commit to. I think sometimes if we do an hour and a half to 2 hours, you're like,
that's a lot of time. An hour is just perfect. It's like, yes, I can totally give myself to that. And your Instagram is beautiful, and you have some wonderful stories, you know, and your own Instagram TV. So it's lovely, and I totally advise everyone to go and check you out and follow. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the sunshine where you are. And thank you so much for your time and coming on and promoting the work that we do. It's so important. So thank you for, you know, giving it an extra push this year with your Instagram and, you know, your work that you're doing. I think it's so important because, you know, I know you're, you know, talking about music therapy, but it's still the creative arts therapist. Like, you're still mentioning all of us. You know, you tag ICAT, and that means that it's all of us, and we all feel that connected promotion. So thank you. I think it's very important.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me on here. Your podcast is fantastic, and I've really enjoyed hearing all the little bits and all the different people coming on and talking to you and learning from that. And so I'm delighted to be one of those people. So thank you so much for asking me, for getting in touch.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for saying yes.